Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to meeting number 121 of the New York State Canal Recreationway Commission, coming to you virtually from Albany and in other locations around the state. Thank you to our commissioners, to our agency representatives, and to our regional development executives for joining with us today. We will dispense with introductions since there are so many folks on this call, but we'll notate that we have a quorum. Nearly every commissioner has joined us, as well as staff from the Canal Corporation and NYPA and other agencies as well. So the first order of business, of course, is to review the minutes and to have a motion and a second to accept the minutes. The minutes were distributed late yesterday, I believe, if that's correct, Kim, to all of you. So if you've had an opportunity to read the minutes and to review them, we can entertain a motion to move and second, and then have discussion on the minutes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So
Yes.
moved. Oh,
Yep.
second.
Second, this is Cal.
Moved by Commissioner Patorti and seconded by Commissioner Wysikowski. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion on the minutes. Any discussion? No discussion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as distributed, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion carries and the minutes are approved. We are going to go on to real property. We have two real property items today, and I will introduce our real property special manager who is with us all the time, Jessica Foote. Jessica, welcome, and please take us through the first of these two items.
Thank you, Director. Today we will be discussing two proposed abandonments for the Commission's consideration. The first request in the Eastern Region is a small residential request located in the town of Half Moon, Saratoga County. The second request is in the Western Region from a commercial permittee and located in the town of Pittsford, Monroe County. Next slide, please. The first parcel is approximately 0.3 acres located in the town of Half Moon, Saratoga County. The parcel is located on the north side of the Mohawk River. This parcel is not presently needed or anticipated to be needed for the operation and maintenance of the canal system. Next slide, please. The requested parcel is an irregularly shaped, slightly sloping parcel and improved with a partially encroaching garage, lawn area, and trees. The property has been requested to clear the encroachment and utilized for gardening and enjoyment. The requested parcel is bounded on the north, east, and west by residential properties and the applicant, and the additional lands under the jurisdiction of the Canal Court, and on the south by the Mohawk River. The abandonment will have no impact on the Canalway Trail, which is not located in this area. Based on a visual inspection, there are no environmental concerns associated with the requested parcel. The parcel is located adjacent to residential and commercial districts. The requested parcel is a portion of Barge Canal parcels 1967, 1971, and 1989, appropriated in 1922. Prior to its disposition, a review or consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office for the parcel's historic and archaeological significance will be undertaken to condition the transfer if necessary based on their recommendation. Next slide, please. And here is an image of the parcel from the west. Did we have any questions on this item?
Any questions on this item? This is along the Mohawk River, along the Barge Canal. It's right at the Crescent, the former location of the Crescent Aqueduct of the historic and large canal. Some of the buildings on this site adjacent to the parcel are historic structures that were part of the Barge Canal system. Excuse me, part of the enlarged canal system. So today it's the barge. It's where we have our terminal, and it's a lovely piece of property that we just had the opportunity to sail by as we joined the Seneca Chief on its trans-state journey, passing on its way to Albany this past week. These items have been pre-vetted by members of our property committee, and that would include Commissioner Aiketa, Commissioner DeRoller and Commissioner Wysokowski. And would any of our property commissioners like to add any enlightenment for the benefit of the other commissioners?
So this is Cal, and yeah, yesterday we had a good discussion about this property, and I think Commissioner Ikeda brought up some interesting and good questions. I don't know if we want to go through, the entire meeting yesterday, but we did talk about this, and I think we all agreed that we could move forward. It is under permit at the current time.
So as with property dispositions of this nature, this is a prolonged process which could take quite some time, more than a year. But this is the first step. And as Jessica has outlined, I think the adjacent property owner just wants this to add to the beautification of his land. There's no development that is planned on this property. Is that correct, Jessica?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, let's have a motion to move and second, and we'll see if we have other discussions. Moved by,
Make so moved.
that sounds like Doug Cole, Commissioner Cole. Thank you. Is there a second?
Yeah. Second, Patorti.
Okay, Commissioner Patorti, thank you. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this parcel? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of accepting this parcel and moving it forward through the disposition process, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion is carried. Let's go on now, Jessica, to property item number 2.
Thank you. The second abandonment request is located in the western region and is approximately 1 acre located in the village of Pittsburgh, Monroe County. This parcel is not presently needed or anticipated to be needed for the operation and maintenance of the canal system. Next slide, please. This parcel has been requested by the adjacent landowner to the south. The property is currently permitted to the applicant, who is building an apartment complex with amenities such as a restaurant, fitness center, walking trails, gazebos, clubhouse, and a dock or boat launch. The surplus land is irregularly shaped, containing lawn and trees. The parcel is bounded on the north by the canal, the west by additional lands under the canal, under the jurisdiction of the Canal Corporation, the south by the applicant, and on the east by Monroe Ave. Based on visual inspection, there are no environmental concerns associated with the requested parcels. The request is made up of canal parcel 3895, appropriated in 1912. Prior to its disposition, a review or consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office for the parcel's historic and archaeological significance will be undertaken to condition the transfer if necessary based on their recommendation. The parcel is zoned residential local waterfront. Abandonment and sale of the property will have no impact on the Empire, State, or Canalway Trail located on the north side of the canal. Next slide, please. And here's a couple pictures of the property from Google Street View showing from the west and the north. Were there any questions on this item?
What were the buildings in that fire slide? It looked like within the. Kim, can you go back one, or am I looking outside of the target parcel? Oh, it's just that little strip on
Yeah,
that side. Okay,
small strip
got it.
is-
Okay, never mind.
So those are our maintenance, our canal maintenance buildings on the other side. Is that the north side of the canal in the green area, not the parcel that's in question? So, and then the black and white dotted line is the path of the Empire State Trail, Canalway Trail. Cal, you've known some history of this parcel. Do you care to add anything to this conversation about this?
No, I don't think so at this time. Thank you,
Okay.
though, for the opportunity.
So it's a beautiful part of the canal in Pittsford, and we can see why it's attractive. It's a narrow parcel, so any development is going to be challenged to stay within those confines, but we'll begin the process and see where this leads us. And hopefully this is an opportunity to bring more development needed along the canal that will generate property tax revenue. Okay, do we have a motion to move in second? Motion to move.
Second, DeRoller.
Moved by Ken DeRoller. Is there a second?
So moved, Frappatori.
All right, moved by Commissioner DeRoller, seconded by Commissioner Patorti. Moved and seconded. Any additional conversation on the parcel before we go to a vote?
The only thing we recommended coming out of committee was that this is approximately 1,800 linear feet, about a third of a mile of the small strip, that the Canal Corp should entertain an easement on this property for future maintenance, which was a key point.
Well noted, Commissioner. Thank you. That's a very important point. As you can see, it abuts right up to the canal, right along the blue line. So we're very interested, if we need it, to have access to that parcel, easement access to that parcel for maintenance purposes or any other purposes that might arise unforeseen. Any additional conversation or discussion? Okay, it's been moved.
You
It's
got
been
my-
seconded. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's right. Take the vote first. It's Michelle. Take the vote first. And
All
then
right, Michelle,
ask the
thank you.
question.
All right, all those in favor of advancing this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is accepted. Commissioner Bernard.
And this is something that Cal and I have brought up in the past, because there are several parcels, and this being one of them, that will affect the future of the canal, and especially commercial projects like this. We don't get follow-ups to know how it's impacting the canal and how it can be more beneficial. So just something I don't want to add to staff burden, but I think it's important that we have kind of a constant flow of information.
I think that's a great idea. I think going back at least five years or so, see what properties, as you know, Michelle, these things sometimes take an extended time to go from when we see them to when they're acted upon by the NYPA Board of Trustees and the Canal Corporation Board, as well as the comptroller or any other of the legal entities that need to act upon them. So I think we've done this in the past, and we can talk to Jamie if Jamie's on the call today about an opportunity to look at the transactions that have occurred over the past 5 years or so. And certainly Rebecca and I will work on that and add that to a future meeting agenda.
Thank you.
Yep. And if I could just jump on that, I appreciate that, Michelle. I was going to wait until December's meeting. Last time we brought that up, we were told that as a part of the annual report on activities of the CRC, that could be part of the annual summary. So maybe if we shoot for December, and we could see that, I would really appreciate it. And again, not to make more work for staff, but so that we could track this and see what's going on.
Excellent. Any other comments on that? Thank you, Commissioner Wojciechowski, Michelle, and Cal. Thank you for those comments. Well heeded. Any other comments on that? Questions for Jessica? Jessica, as always, thank you very much for your expert review of these property items, and we look forward to future property items coming along. So we'll move out of the real property items and move on to the next item, and that is an update on the World Canals Conference. I think this has been assigned to me, although Cal would be, I would defer to her to also jump in. We have just completed the wonderful showing at the 2025 World Canals Conference in Buffalo, and many of you had the opportunity to join us for the entire week. It was fantastic. Let's go to the next slide, Kim, and we'll see some of the statistics. Nearly 500 attendees from 10 countries and 22 states featured a tidal wave. This is very good, of discussion about economic, community development, waterway management, tourism, and the preservation of inland waterways. Two dynamic keynote speakers, which were Richard Millar and Haba Gurman. both at different points during the program, inspiring talks. Our own Governor Hogle came in and gave a tremendous presentation about the importance of the canal and her commitment to continuing to invest in the canal. And of course, that's music to our ears, but it was also music to the ears of our trustees. So they have their marching orders from the governor, and the message went forth loud and clear. So Haben Gurma is the first deafblind graduate of Harvard Law School. Gave an inspiring talk at the Statler Hotel, and there we have a nice photo of her in the first photo on the right-hand side. The governor below, the dancers at the Canal Side Community Day on Sunday, and of course the Erie Canal Boat Seneca Chief making its departure from the World Canals Conference on Wednesday, September 24th, and beginning its 33-day journey across 28 community stops, and it is now in the Hudson, making its way down towards New York City, which will arrive on Saturday. Anyone who's had the opportunity to join with the Seneca Chief along this journey has witnessed tremendous crowds, tremendous enthusiasm and pride in this tremendous journey. So we're really happy about that. And big kudos, of course, and thanks to our partners, the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor, the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation, and Visit Buffalo Niagara, all of whom did an amazing job, particularly Bob and his team, who really managed this project from start to finish. We were throwing some curveballs along the way with the labor dispute at the Hyatt, which moved us over to the Buffalo Convention Center, but I would say seamlessly so. And we were able to hold all of our sessions well there without inconveniencing anyone to any extent. Great field sessions. Unfortunately, I did not have a chance to take part in many of them. Some of us had to attend the NYPA Board of Trustees meeting, which was strategically held at the Niagara Power Vista Center and the historic boardroom there. But some of us were able to catch up later in the afternoon, and I was able to get over to Lockport and see the unveiling of the new Big Ditch tasting room, which is fantastic. Cal, do you have any comments to add about the World Canals Conference?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was a very strong conference, a lot of great content. Um, Two or three other observations I'll share. It was great to see other commissioners there, CRC folks. I know Fra was there, and Kendra Roller and Natalie. It was great to spend time with you outside of the CRC meeting. So thank you for taking the time out of your schedules to be there. The other observation is there's been sort of a reverberation of excitement as the Seneca Chief left Buffalo and has traveled across New York State. Having been to several of the communities where the vessel has stopped, it's just been pure joy and fun. It's been a great time, and really has seen a lot of smiles and people noticing that it is the bicentennial. So that's really good news. I think the word has certainly gotten out about the importance of the canal. And last, I'd like to thank all the other partners, including NYPA and all the canal staff and Erie Canalway staff, for just a great job. It was a great international conference. I learned a lot and was really glad to be there as well. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much, Cal, as the chair or the immediate past chair of the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. That you, of course, played a major role in making this happen, and it was great. I know that Bob and his team are very happy. I think we actually netted in the black for the
Yay!
first time, so that was great. And tremendous leadership by our two co-chairs,
Yes.
Ann McCaffrey and Keith Belanger, who did a phenomenal job of bringing in the sponsors that we need to make this program possible and to underwrite really a major portion of the Seneca Chiefs journey too. So that was great. And the Canal Conference, the World Canals Conference, moves on to Guilin, China next year.
Oh,
So we had an excited delegation, large delegation from Guilin, including the vice mayor was there to give an inspiring welcome. And we handed off the ceremonial canal bugle, the hoagie horn or hoagie bugle, um, to our Chinese delegation, and with our best wishes for a wonderful Canals Conference for 2026. Any other comments on the World Canals Conference? Rebecca, what did I miss?
I thought you covered it beautifully. It felt collaborative and energetic, and yeah, our partners were amazing and pulling everything together and thinking of every detail. So I hope people had a really great time in Buffalo.
It was wonderful.
mm-hmm.
Just want to give this note that Commissioner Iacetta, who texted me, says he has been on since 12:55, and he has voted in the affirmative on all of the action items that we have taken, but he is having continued challenges with being heard or seen on the Zoom, but he is hearing and he is seeing us. And if we don't have his vote by real time here, I am happy to report that he is supporting all of our actions so far. Trustee Gonzalez, you were at the World Canals Conference with your husband Michael. Anything you care to add about your experience or our collective energy there?
No, both Mike and I had a great time. It was fun to be around so many like-minded people or people interested in canals and the topic of canals. I thought it was great that we were able to bring the entire board to the conference, if not for a day and a half while we had our board meeting. And so I think that the importance of the canal it's not lost at all on the trustees, on the NIPA trustees. And I think, there was concern about that when I first came on board, and those concerns are no longer valid, right? Is my opinion. So, and I hope that people got a chance to talk to some of the trustees that were there, because they were there for a day and a half, most of them. Mike and I stayed right through Thursday, so we got to see the launch of the Seneca Chief. That was fun.
It was wonderful to be with you and to take on Buffalo with you both. It was
I have
great.
to say, Brian, if I could jump back in, I
Yeah.
have to say it's really a credit to Trustee Gonzalez, because when you come to, a board type of an engagement, when you can get people oriented around solutions and opportunities, I think a lot of our leaders are really hungry for that. So if we're just focused on the challenges, which are real and many, that can cast a shadow over everything else that something like the canal system has to offer. So, thank you, B, for being that positive agent of change. I think we've really come to a collective, place where we're, not losing our realism, or, we're not delusional about the canal system, but we're just really embracing everything that it has to offer. And that's something that CRC has been doing for a long time. So thank you for your support and advocacy.
Well said,
And
Rebecca.
my
Yes,
honor and pleasure.
thank you very much. We want to, we get to the items at the end for public comment. I'd like Natalie Commissioner Stetson to talk about the Erie Canal Gala that was held at the Erie Canal Museum this past week. And among the honorees was, of course, Trustee Gonzalez, and we are very, very proud of that. So if there's no further comment on the experiences, the excitement, or shared stories of the World Canals Conference, we want to thank you for all being a part of that. It seems like only yesterday we were in Poland and in Germany making plans for this day to come. It came and went very quickly, and now we're on to the end of the bicentennial this weekend. So having said that, we're going to move on to our next item, which is creating a consistent user experience. And this is brought to you by the Community Benefit Team and the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. And I don't have a person to introduce, but Kim, who is our presenter here?
I am Angeline.
Angeline, welcome, Angeline Chandler, Vice President for NIPA.
Thank you. Who's ever managing the PowerPoint, could you get rid of that banner that's at the bottom of the screen? I think it will be obscuring some information.
Maybe we just click on the hide or something. Kim, do you see that? Well, we might have to make do with that for the time being, Angeline, before it disappears.
All right, great, thank you. All right, so good afternoon. Starting in 2026, we would like to use this meeting to track our progress on the implementation of the Canal Recreationway Plan 2050. Today, we're going to report out on the work that we, with our partners at Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor, have completed this year since the plan was published at the end of 2024. As we make steps towards becoming a linear park, a consistent and updated visual brand is important to signal this change, as are new ways of thinking about how we manage our landscapes and welcome people to our sites. To that end, we've developed a set of tools and resources for both our internal use and for communities. We know it's not all on us to implement the plan, but it is on us to provide the guidance that makes it easy for others to help us. We'll hear from Joanna Pacheco, who'll speak to a palette of amenities that we've developed to provide a consistent look and brand for our sites. We'll hear from Sasha Del Peral about the new canal and trail identifiers and signage guidelines that improve wayfinding and update our brand. We'll hear from Darby Racy about how we are working to make the canal an accessible linear park where everyone is welcome. We'll hear from Justine Heilner, who will speak about land management tools we are piloting and about how we are using all of these tools I've mentioned to improve public safety and access at our sites. We'll hear from Mona Karen at Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor, who will speak to an amenities gap analysis for the Erie Canal that we co-sponsored that tells us where we need to add or improve amenities for public access. And finally, we'll hear from Mary Abruzzese at Erie Canalway, who will talk about the 2 canal community grants that we co-sponsor, one for small capital projects that utilize these new resources and tools, and one for events. So with that, let me turn it over to Joanna. Joanna.
Good afternoon. Maybe we can get the next slide. There we go. So thank you for being here today. I think I want to talk a bit about the canal design standards that we established and deployed earlier this year in late April and May. We basically created a group of elements that together establish a coherent visual language for the canal system, so that we have brand recognition, but also a continuity across the 500 miles of canal that we have. And in order to establish these elements that you see, so seating elements, picnic tables, garbage containers, bike racks, fountains, bike support, and different lighting elements, we looked at different aspects that were important. First, that they would be accessible, so that the tables or the benches would be accessible for people of all abilities. We looked at their materiality and durability. We looked at clarity in terms of maintenance and assembly, so that we minimize the burden both internally for canals or for any municipality or group that installs those on canal land, so that they can withstand the environment and be safely secured. Next slide, please. So We, in order to deploy this, not only did we choose the elements according to the criteria that I just described, but we also issued a manual where you can see how they could be deployed in different typical conditions and how they can change main street sides, trailheads, or areas that are more of a natural condition in park. So this is one of the planning examples, which is one adjacent to a main street, where you can see how to turn a typical canal condition into one where people can convene using not only the elements that I described, but also certain landscape strategies to be able to make it more welcoming. Next. We also show within that planning manual how to set up each one of those elements, what are the clearances required, how they will be attached. We provide specs and assembly details so that you know, the ease of maintenance and the durability of those elements is carried through. Next. And we also define a certain number of landscape strategies that can be followed and that respect the integrity of the infrastructure in terms of the offsets from different areas, but that also provide different types of native plantings and maintenance strategies that would help sustain these landscapes and provide increased biodiversity and habitat. Next. So in addition to these elements, we also provide other complementary elements that we're not integrating into our internal standards, but that could provide communities and municipalities with support for recreational activities, whether it is the pavilion or a vendor kiosk, or different play or exercise elements that could be deployed along the canals. So those are not ones that we, the Canal Corporation, would necessarily implement, but they will help them choose, and we help them, and they've been chosen according to the same type of criteria in terms of accessibility, of maintenance, installation, and they kind of complement our palette of elements in terms of a coherent image for the canals. Next. Thank you. Sasha.
Great. Thanks, Joanna. I'm Sasha Del Perel. I'm the trail manager at the New York State Canal Corporation, as Angela mentioned, and also a member of the community benefit team. And we'll go to the next slide. So the work that we undertook with Studio V and via collective consulting builds off of the work that Joanna did, and also the CRC's objectives of creating a more consistent and park-like environment for those visiting Canal Corporation's public-facing spaces. And we adopted a new set of signage design standards. Up until the release of this design in August, our signage guidelines hadn't been updated in over 30 years. And in fact, they didn't reflect industry standards for safety or visibility. And they also didn't even reflect our more current agency color branding. So our signs were all different blues and yellows across the system. The new signage design guidelines reflect those updates, but they also reflect our emphasis on placemaking and wayfinding along the system. This includes both pedestrian and on-road signage for when you are kind of entering our property. And it's intended to help inform the public about where amenities are, where Canal Corporation public spaces are located. The examples on the screen are pedestrian signage that you might encounter at a lock or trailhead. The signs at the bottom of the screen are intended to provide visitors with information about where they are in relation to the wider system, and also what towns and amenities surround them, so that they can kind of get a reference point of, you know, if you're traveling on the trail, you might not necessarily want to pull out your phone and figure out like, oh, I'm entering Fort Edward, let's just say as an example. You'll be informed while you're out on the system that you are entering Fort Edward and what amenities may be around you, and also where other communities are in relationship to where you are. Next slide. Oh, actually, sorry, don't go to next slide yet. Well, it's okay. This package also includes materials and applications for the sign, so it will serve as an instruction manual for anyone looking to sign on our property. So similar to Joanna's, the amenities, kit of parts, the signage is only intended for Canal Corporation property, not non-Canal Corporation property, even if it's directing folks to Canal Corporation land. All right, now we can go to the next slide. And included in this package is also a new set of designs for interpretive signage. This is one way that we can commemorate the history and culture of the canal system and its neighboring communities. If you've been out on the system, you'll see that there are probably over 100 different looks and types of these signs. And so working with our consultant, we developed different theme templates as well as formats for the signage so that they can work in different environments, including like on bridges and at our trailheads and also at lock facilities. So while their orientation might be different, and potentially like not the colors, but the layout of the colors may be different. They always have the same look and feel like that you would experience at a federal park or a state park. You would see consistent colored branding signage on our property. We also developed 6 different generic interpretive signs that can be used across the system. So we look for topics that would be applicable in most locations along the system and tell the story of the canal. And those topics include, there's a few examples. So on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see how a lock works. You know, these signs could be placed at basically any lock we have. We also have the ecology of the canal. But in addition to that, we also have the engineering construction of the canal, engineering construction of a powerhouse, how a lift gate works, how a lift bridge works. And so our hope is that, you know, as we do construction projects or improvements, that we can always place these types of signs out on the system on an as needed basis. And then also for any community looking to sign or provide interpretation on our system, they have a few kind of already pre-made, pre-vetted sign designs that they could use and print. Next slide. And the last and final component of the signage update was the refresh of our public facing branding. We're calling these brand identifiers because our Canal Corporation logo, which is at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, isn't going to change. That is still who we are and what will be a lot of our public facing information. But these brands will be visible at our property, on public communications in some instances, and all of our wayfinding signage. This update didn't occur overnight, and it took almost 2 years to develop the brands and signage for this with stakeholder input and a lot of emphasis on modernizing the Canal Corporation's look in a way that honors, you know, our past, but also signals a more public-facing era of the canal. And so at the top right of your screen, you'll see our Canal Corporation site and equipment identifier. This is the brand that you'll see on our workboats, at our lock houses, flags, and on waterway signage. And for years, you've probably, if you've been on the system, seen all different mismatched colorations and brands used for this purpose. One had a packet boat, blue and yellow with rope around it. There was also a white and blue one. And depending on which section you were in, you would see different signs. We want to have a consistent sign that we use for our property. So this is the new look. It has a lock, which is definitely iconic for our system, and a kind of representation of one of our new workboats. And then the bottom identifier is for the Canalway Trail, and these will be predominantly used for wayfinding signage. Communities that do own or maintain the trail will have access to this branding. So this is one of the few brands that will be used by non-Canal Corporation entities. And previously this logo, I wish I included the way they looked before, but this included a packet boat, which didn't really feel that reflective of the trail. So we wanted to put in a trail system, but also kind of have it also look like a waterway and look a little bit more recreational. And I want to note that while we are very excited to have these brands and new signage design guidelines available to the public and for our use, we are not doing a wholesale replacement of the thousands of signs that exist out on our system. We'll replace the signs on a rolling basis as needed and in alignment with our ongoing maintenance and restoration projects. So that is, I think that's the end of this slide, this part of my presentation. I'll pass it over to Darby.
Thanks, Sasha. My name's Darby Racy. I'm a program manager with NYPA and Canals, and I manage the On the Canals program. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about what we're doing with accessibility, especially in response to the principle of champion quality of life and inclusivity for all users, and specifically the strategy 1, commit to making accessibility the standard across the system. So I thought I would start with just why that's important, if it's not obvious already, but and some of you may have already seen this information, but we know that 80% of our health and wellness takes place outside of medical offices. So it's very important to have opportunities for folks to get outdoors, enjoy some recreational time with their friends and family. We also know that 26% of Americans are living with a disability, and for upstate New York alone, that's 2.2 million people. Across the country, folks living with a disability also have $4.9 billion in annual discretionary spending. So not only is it the right thing to do, it's good for business as well. Next slide, please. So as I think back to the start of On the Canals and how far we've come, we're in our 6th year now, and I really see it as a vehicle for change across the system. So, the goals are listed here. We set out to help some small businesses initially, and that continues today. We've had 44 organizations be On the Canals providers to date. So that's small businesses, municipalities, and nonprofits as well. We've also focused on advancing social responsibility objectives. So in terms of increasing access on adventures, 82% of the spend for On the Canal adventures is in increasing access. So we're super proud of that. And then, of course, increasing visitation to canal communities. That's where the economic impact comes in. And we've had around 43,000 people participate in On the Canal's adventures since its inception in 2020. Next slide, please. So you all know back in April of last year, we held a forum called Accessible Recreation on the Canalway. It was part of the Erie Canal Bicentennial Forum Series. And in that forum, we had 2 panels. One panel was basically education, some information on foundational topics such as person first language and really the basics of what folks needed to know to get into this space. And then the second panel talked about things people could do when they got home, to their organizations, to their communities, to help to improve accessibility for the things that they touched. So at the end of that, at that forum, we asked people to say yes to accessibility. Go back, think about what you can do to improve accessibility in your own backyard, in your organizations, in your communities. Our action coming out of that forum was to create a program called the On the Canals Accessibility Education Program. So that was launched in July of last year. We had 12 providers go through that program, and we just started the 2nd year for another 12. So the main goal of that program is to help people to understand what they can do to remove barriers to accessibility. We realized that we were asking people to do this, but didn't really give them any information on how to do it. So that's where this program comes in. These providers work for 1 year in a mentored training sort of relationship with our consultant, Rochester Accessible Adventures. Through their work, they develop a strategic inclusion action guide or action plan, and they work on implementing the things in that plan for that 1 year period. There's also a lot of outreach and engagement done as well to connect community groups with these providers. And the whole idea is that this becomes something that continues year after year. And I also should mention, I manage this accessibility education program with Allison Daniewicz. She runs the supplier diversity programs for NYPA. Next slide, please. So the important thing to remember when we think about the accessibility education program is it's not a checklist. So it's not a list of things you can do and then you can say, hey, we're done with accessibility and that's the end of our story. It continues forever and ever. So the main benchmarks of the program are listed here on the left. So it starts with forming an inclusion team, going through some initial training. That training is a standard training that's available to anyone actually out of SUNY Cortland. It's called Inclusion U. And then Rochester Accessible Adventures works with each provider. And this is really a customized thing. As you can imagine, we have all different sorts of providers, but they'll go to the provider site, do a physical, operational, and social programming assessment. And then from those assessments, develop a recommendations report. The recommendations report is then the basis for that strategic action plan that I talked about in the last slide. Importantly, each of the organizations now has an inclusion point of contact. So if anyone wanting to visit that provider site to participate in any program has a question on any sort of accommodations, that's the person they contact. Nobody had that before. And then through these plans, the providers they work on physical programmatic enhancements. So just some examples of that are portable bathrooms. So trying to incorporate adult changing stations as an example, also having American Sign Language interpreters available. And then training continues. So beyond that core inclusion team, then training is also done with staff, any volunteers that work with the organization on a regular basis, and also board members as well. So the whole idea is that this is the way that this gets embedded in the organization and becomes a way of life for them. The graphic in the middle just talks about the standard process. It really should be a circle because that all just continues, but it starts with learning, training, assessing, planning, and then implementing, and then just continues on forevermore. Intentional marketing is done and is very important for this because if we don't get the word out to folks that this stuff is available and these providers are equipped to offer these adventures, then they just won't come. So the top left picture is from an event that was held at Hudson Crossing Park. That was an event that was really the culmination of their work on the accessibility education program and shows a person here riding a hand cycle for the first time. That event was held in collaboration with Stride Adaptive Sports and Erie Canal Boat Company. So we had lots of folks there trying all sorts of new equipment for the first time. The picture on the bottom right is a similar sort of event that was held in Fairport. This gentleman is checking in to use an adaptive kayak later in the day. And then the top right one is just a little snapshot of our On the Canals website. So all of the adventures for On the Canals that are inclusive have an icon that tells folks that. We received a ton of feedback this year that just people were so excited to see the amount of inclusive opportunities for them, and we're shocked that it was really happening. So that was great to hear. Next slide, please. All right, so this is obviously a map of the system. For those of you who were at the World Canal Conference, Rebecca articulated this during her intro of Haben Girma during one of the keynote speeches. So this really resonated with all of us working on this program and all of the providers involved as well. And it's that we envision a future where the canal system is a global destination for people with disabilities and their loved ones. And this is something we try to stress a lot, that this programming is not a program just for people living with disabilities. It's for people living with disabilities as well as their friends and family. So nobody is left at home to participate in this sort of stuff. So Kim, if you could just click ahead one, it'll pop up with some stuff. There you go, thanks. So these are the providers that were in the accessibility education program for the first round. They varied from art studios to kayaking providers. We had different parks as well. And then if you click ahead again, this is the anticipated second round. So we're working on finalizing the next 12 that will participate in the accessibility education program. So this is where we anticipate they'll fall. Next slide, please. So we have a lot of anecdotal stories. And, you know, when we were preparing our presentation for the World Canal Conference, we were saying that we could have talked for 4 hours with all the stories. So we all know that metrics are important and we have them as part of this program, but we also like to tell these stories as well, because to me, this is so meaningful. So I won't read the quote on the left, but we've had can you click back, Kim? We have a lot of feedback coming back from the Canalway Challenge. So folks that completed a challenge and, you know, are you know, a person living with a disability, and saying that in this particular case that they were able to participate in some adventures with several of the On the Canals providers, and just talked about what a great experience it was. The bottom left picture is from that event that I talked about in Fairport. This gentleman was a whitewater kayaker, and he was able to get into an adaptive kayak. When he came off the water, I talked to him about what he thought of it, how he liked it. He said he loved it, and he couldn't wait to get his family out there now with him, because he wasn't aware that there was a place that had both standard and adaptive equipment available. The second picture is of the Rivery, which is with Cornhill Navigation. And the story, one of the stories out of there are so many, but one is a mom who called the inclusion point of contact at Cornhill Navigation, and has a son who has some pretty complex accommodations that were needed, including power, to be connected to power for the entire time. So Cornhill Navigation was able to make every accommodation that was needed. And the mom afterward was talking to the inclusion point of contact and said it was just so appreciative, because it was the first time that her son had gone any real length of time without having a seizure. He was just able to enjoy the peace of the water. And then the next picture is it's one you may have seen on some ads, but this is the kayak picture. That's Lee in the front of the tandem kayak, and his sister and brother-in-law signed him up to learn how to kayak so he could join them on Seneca Lake during their vacation. So Lee spent 3 different sessions on land because he was really worried and afraid to get out on the water. That picture is from the 4th time when he got on the water for the first time. This last picture and this last quote are really, to me, where we're trying to get across the entire system. So this is a person who went kayaking out in Fairport on the accessible launch out of that site. And she sent a note to Anita O'Brien, the executive director of Rochester Accessible Adventures, afterward. And I'll read this one to you. It says, Anita, it was one of the easiest things I've done in my decades of living with a spinal cord injury. Easier than going to my own bank, easier than going to get groceries, easier than going to work. I just drove up with a friend, rolled over in my chair, and he had us in the kayak in minutes. It's like he knew I was coming. So that's where we're looking to get everywhere across the system, where everyone feels like we knew they were coming. And I don't know who's next, but thank you for listening.
Bravo.
Good job.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, can you hear me? I'm next.
Yep.
I'm Justine Heilner. Most of you know me by now. And I'm going to be following up all this great work to talk about how we're looking at putting all these pieces into place on our sites. So next slide, please. And we're doing so many things, but what we're trying to do right now over the next year or so is we're exploring and finding a process for implementing these site improvements around our lock sites. That was one of the things that was identified in the 2050 plan, is using the lock sites as sort of mini parks that really make visitor experience better. The locks were not built to be public parks, but that's how we're using them now. So how can we adapt them to be safer and more welcoming for everybody? We are working with a bunch of different resources, including all of the ones that you just heard about. We're also working with public safety assessments and site amenity standards and universal design principles to do simple things like adding benches, tables, plantings, and pathways that are accessible. We're exploring light touch approaches for doing this ourselves, and also working with our permit office to streamline community-led installations on our properties. So using all of the tools that we have developed and figuring out how to actually get them on the ground. It's not an easy thing. Next slide, please. Our team that you've been hearing from is focused on park planning and management and really envisioning the canal as a park-like space and thinking about the user experience. So we are working with our operations team to bring some of that big picture thinking to our sites. We're helping in a lot of different stages, both consulting with them before a project is done, helping with design, or helping procure design if it's not something that we can do in-house. And we're also working to develop some big picture thinking. So looking at what would an ideal site be, and are there ways that we can budget for it in future years or tie it into other construction work that's happening? So rather than maybe doing this as an outside project, really thinking about how we can tie it into our operations now. We're also working with communicating. So communicating with all of the different parties to see how we can make these things land on the ground. Next slide. We've already visited a bunch of sites across the system, and one that we're using as a sort of test drive is Lockheed 2 in Waterford. It's a lock house site that many of you are very familiar with as we sort of kicked off our navigation season there this year. It's already used like a park by local residents and also used to host small festivals and events. So we met with our operations folks last winter and talked through the public needs, what they know about how people are using it, also things that people are doing that they would not like them to do. So can we use design or simple signage, things like that, to encourage people to do the right thing in the right place and not the things we don't want them to do, either because it's a nuisance or it's not safe for them. And we're developing a holistic site plan. So where can we put in these new furnishings? How can we make it accessible to everyone? And then also, what are the site safety things we need to do, like new guardrails and guide rails? Next slide. So that Lockheed 2 is just one example. We've got several sites around the system. I'm jumping ahead a little with my slide, but it's a fun one to look at. And what we're doing is we're working on how do we do it ourselves? How do we procure designers or contractors to do the work in a way that's less top heavy than a usual construction project? And then how do we also help guide communities to do it to our standards when they're doing it? A fun and other thing that we're working on over the next year is really building out how we think about our land management. So you probably heard about the goats that were out near Rochester last spring. And that was one test pilot to look at using an old tool to do work that our new tools aren't very good at, or that is unsafe for our staff to do. We're also looking at ways that we can let our spaces do more in terms of biodiversity, ecosystem services, while also lessening the burden of work for our staff. So we have just been out this fall staking out some places to reduce mowing, and we're going to be doing this all across the system with the hope of expanding that program over the coming years. And we are also planting pollinator gardens like the one you see in this photo. That's a little bit more intensive. It's not always the right approach, but we're basically testing all these different things that we can do together and do it with our folks on the ground to really understand what helps them, what we can do with them, and how we can start making the mental shift of what these lands are for and how we can steward them for the next century. It's a big shift, but every time we go out on site, we talk to the public and people are enthusiastic and our staff is enthusiastic. So I feel like it feels like we're heading in the right direction on this one as well. And that's it for me. Passing it to Sasha. Or maybe
I think Mary will.
Mary, got it.
Yeah.
It's Mona.
I think this is me.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Mona, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mona Kulkarni-Karen. I'm with Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. I'm the Director of Trails and Stewardship, and I'm going to report out on our recreational amenities study. Erie Canalway conducted this study in partnership with the New York State Canal Corporation and the Mohawk River Watershed Basin Program with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. We also worked with Colliers Engineering and Design as our consultant on this year-long project. If you could move to the next slide. Okay. When we started, we had a few overarching goals, and from there we were able to extrapolate the key questions. And based on that, we sought out answers to 4 questions, main questions. What amenities exist on the waterway and the land trail? What conditions were they in? What are the gaps in amenities, and where are the opportunities? So several key themes emerged, which include creating a new, a consistent and predictable experience for users. And the other theme was strengthening partnerships among the many entities and stakeholders. So that's the background on the study. Next, we'll talk about the study itself. If you could move to the next slide. We met with 16 groups of stakeholders and user groups, including our partners with Canal Corporation, DEC, the Office of Parks and Recreation and Historic Preservation, plus groups representing inclusion and diversity and accessibility, tourism groups, and then user groups such as paddlers, boaters, cyclists, runners. And consistently, we heard the same things across the board. Trail users want consistency, that amenities will be available, properly spaced, and in good shape. Trail users also want predictability, that amenities are in good condition and can be found across the system. And finally, trail users want wayfinding to show amenities or points of interest off trail, in town, to be able to navigate to the next town and to navigate without a device. They also would like to see, shared amenities like restrooms, drinking water, signage. So those were the key things that we heard across all user types. Next slide, please. We collected over 6,500 amenities, and those were captured with a high level visual assessment. You can see that the list was very extensive. Next slide, please. And we broke down the Canalway Trail and the Water Trail into 4 distinct regions. The report addresses location-based recommendations for each region. So you can see the 4 regions that we covered. And this is, again, just for the Erie Canal. Next slide, please. Data collection was limited to public access amenities that were readily visible from the trail and would be needed by a trail user. So this image is a good visual representation of what was collected and what amenities were not collected. Next slide, please. Conditions assessment followed Canal Corporation's 2022 Trail Inventory Asset Manual. And actually, if you could go back one, I think something was skipped. Nope. Okay. You can go to the next slide then. Okay. Nope. Go back one. There we go. The next couple of slides, they address the best practices to fill gaps, and they go hand in hand for the need for consistency and predictability. So, ideal spacing between amenities was a concept that the report talks about. And based on the stakeholder feedback and trail best practices, we identified spacing guidelines, which get to that theme of predictability. We also introduced the concept of hubs and nodes. Hubs are located in highly activated areas and have good connectivity and, have a high concentration of amenities. Nodes are located in, less active areas, have connectivity, but maybe have fewer amenities. And then, of course, the report identifies potential hubs and nodes where with future investment, these sites could have a higher profile. Next slide, please. And, here's an example in Region 1 to show where these hubs and nodes are located or could be located. And this illustrates the needs and assessment opportunities. So if you could go to the next slide. And I know this is a lot to look at, it's very busy, but this map is great for indicating where hubs and nodes are located, and to show where, what amenities exist in each location. Items that are grayed out means that an amenity does not exist, but, there's potential to add something like that. And also any items that have a red circle, those are where amenities can be removed or replaced. So this map kind of brings the report to life to show that it's, a great tool for showing what exists and where the potential is. Next slide, please. Okay. I guess I'm gonna transition over to Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mary Abruzzese. I am the program manager for Erie Canalway Heritage Corridor, and I help manage the Tourism Infrastructure and Event Grant Program in partnership with Sasha. And I'm here to share how this program has made an impact in our canal communities and is helping to implement the vision of CRC's 2050 plan by catalyzing revitalization through strategic and locally born investments. The Tourism Infrastructure and Event Grant Program has become a vital source of early stage funding that helps our canal communities act on projects to enhance tourism and support public use of shared spaces. The TIA Events Program provides a foundation to build upon, credibility that attracts additional investment of funding, and builds momentum to rally community support. If you can go to the next slide. Thank you. We are excited to announce that the 2026 Tourism Infrastructure and Event Grant Program is now open. The range of TIA grants for 2026 will range from $5,000 to $24,000. Event grant awards will range from $500 to $3,000. The application period opened on October 14th and closes on November 21st. We plan to announce the awardees in February of 2026. If you are interested in more information on the program guidelines, you can visit the website provided there. And now Sasha will provide some additional details about the program focus for 2026. Next slide.
Thank you. Can you advance the slide deck? Great. So we've all been seeing the incredible work that Darby and Rochester Accessible Adventures has been bringing to the canal system and to neighboring communities and vendors. And we've all been really inspired by that. And so we have our grant program, and we've been thinking about how we can build accessibility into the grants and projects and events we see coming through that program. And so Mary and I have been making strides over the last 2 years to build inclusivity into our grant programs. Last year, we started by providing additional resources on our grants webpage about inclusive design and event planning. We also updated our application to ask applicants about their accessibility measures, and it added a point value in our review process. But what we found was that we weren't asking specific enough questions, and that even if we were asking those specific enough questions, people didn't really know what we meant when we asked about accessibility. So let's just say, as an example, on the events grant side, we had applicants indicating that their event was accessible because it was a free concert in an open field. And while that might be true that it is more inclusive and potentially more accessible to people, that really didn't get to the heart of what we were looking for, right? So is there accessible parking spaces? Can somebody who's mobility impaired or in a wheelchair access the field from the parking lot? Those were the types of considerations we wanted to see get built in to the events that were coming through our grants. We recognize that this is a small grant program, but we wanted it to be a frame of reference and also a thought process that people come to the grants with that in mind. And so we realized that in order to get the outcomes that we were seeking, similar to what Darby was talking about, we needed to offer applicants an opportunity to learn about what accessibility really means and how it could be applied to their specific project or their event. And to do that, we brought in experts. I'm not an expert. Mary, I don't want to say you're not an expert, but we needed to bring in experts. And so we partnered with the Center for Inclusive Design and Environmental Access at the University of Buffalo, and they helped us with our tourism infrastructure and amenities grants. And then Rochester Accessible Adventures helped us with our events grant side. And so we worked with them on developing a workshop that occurred in advance of our application period, and they were set separately, one for the tourism infrastructure and one for the events. And the hope was that we would educate future applicants about the types of measures, steps, and standards that they could use to make either their project or event more accessible. We had over 100 participants in these workshops. We also recorded the sessions so that they can live as a resource on our grant page, but also be almost, until the standard change, an evergreen resource that can live on our website if people are looking to establish projects or also events along the canal, whether it be on Canal Corporation property or off of it. And both of these partners developed best practices guides. So the Idea Center developed 4 guides that were based on past application pools. And so they found 4 different themes where we see the most applications coming through. And that was universal design best practices for creating park and recreational areas, and then playgrounds, toilet rooms, which is a new term for me. We don't call them restrooms or bathrooms, fishing and boating facilities, and then Rochester Accessible Adventures provided a guide on how to make an inclusive event. And our hope is that through this education, we'll see more applicants considering accessibility in their events and projects this year. But also there's a lot of applications that come in that are already considering that. And Mary's going to talk about a few examples of really great case scenarios of projects that have come through, not just about accessibility, but just high impact projects that we've seen through the grant program. I want to mention too that Mary's going to mention an event. There's a number of events that occur year after year that Canal Corporation and Erie Canal National Heritage Corridor want to provide sponsorship support for, like a tugboat roundup or like a Locktoberfest that traditionally has come to us and we say yeah, we're going to give you sponsorship because it's a great event and it brings out thousands of people to the system. But this year we're really encouraging them to think about they are self-sufficient events. And so how they can use our grant funding towards potential accessibility measures. So Mary, I'll pass it over to you to give some examples of events and program or projects that we funded in the past.
Thank you, Sasha. Next slide, please. Here are a few examples of how the grant program is supporting our local canal communities for tourism and infrastructure. This is a photo from the Canal Society's Samuel Center located in Port Byron. They are a 2023 TIA grant awardee. They were awarded $18,750 to provide the installation of new ADA compliant restrooms, which include changing stations. It improved accessibility and it enabled the center to welcome a broader range of visitors. The total project cost for the installation was around $70,000. Next slide, please. This is a photo from Fort Edward, a 2023 TIA grant awardee. They just finished this installation of an adaptive boat launch. The total project cost was around $35,000, and we awarded them $17,000 and change towards the completion of this project. And it took about 2 years. They just finished this spring. Next slide, please. And this is on the trails. It's an event that we help sponsor by the Joe Family Foundation, an accessible event in Syracuse. It's a festival style inclusive recreation celebration at Syracuse Progress Park. It marked both the 35th anniversary of Americans with Disabilities Act and the bicentennial of the Erie Canal. During the event, CNY Adaptive Sports brought in hand cycles, trikes, tandem cycles, adaptive paddling, equipment for the day of recreation. The total project cost was around $6,000. They estimate the attendance was around 150, and we awarded them $3,000 for hosting this event. These are just a few examples of the many different events and infrastructure projects that we work with and encourage throughout the canal communities. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, team, for your great work. Brian, back to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mary, Mona, Sasha, Justine, Darby, and Angelin for that great information. We hope it not only gives you an idea of everything that through our partnership we are working on, but will inspire you to remind your communities that these grants are ongoing, and there will be future rounds coming forward of new opportunities to continue to apply for funding to be able to bring these wonderful amenities to the canal. Very much needed. It's a very inspiring presentation, Angela, and thank you for putting this together and your team to remind us that, you know, we're not just doing property transactions and other things, but we're really planning for the future, a very bright future for the canal as we continue to wrap up the bicentennial. I would like to shift, unless there are questions for our panel. Yeah, let me open that up and see if there's any comments or questions for Angela, Darby, Justine, Sasha, Mona, and Mary.
No questions here, but really a great presentation on world-class amenities and the 6,500 amenities that they reviewed, and the condition and the foresight to move us forward in this vision. I've got a few notes that we'll bring back in the CRC meeting later, but well done. Really appreciate this.
Thank you, Commissioner DeRoller.
This is Cal. Just quickly, thank you for a great presentation. And you know, at our last meeting, we asked to have updates, you know, at each one of the CRC meetings, and I really appreciate this presentation and the information in it, keeping us updated on what we're doing moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wysokowski. Other comments? Well, I thought it was fabulous. Thank you so much. If there's nothing more, we're going to go on to other business and general discussion. And I'd like to use the privilege of the chairmanship to be able to just back up slightly to the World Canals Conference. I'm informed that Secretary of State Walter Mosley is watching the meeting actively. He's not able to join us, but he's following, I'm sure, with great interest. And even before I was informed that the secretary was online, I had asked Paul Byer of his staff to be able to recap some of the great presentations that were brought to the World Canals Conference on the impact of our DRI program, Downtown Revitalization Initiative, and New York Forward programs on our canal communities. So Paul, no pressure whatsoever that the secretary is listening, but if you could briefly give us a just an update about the secretary's panel session with Vinny Esposito and then Amanda Smith's breakout session later that day.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for the time, Brian. Hello, Secretary. Hello, everybody else. First of all, thank you to the conference organizing committee for accepting our submission for the Secretary to be an opening panel speaker and for me and Amanda to moderate and oversee a panel on the DRI. This was really a great opportunity for the Secretary of State to see the breadth of work that we do with the canal and that the canal does. And by breadth, now he was able to see, the entire world on stage. So it was a great experience for him. He's been visiting canal communities since he arrived here. He's been speaking the language, but it was just remarkable for him to be able to tout the program and how it has contributed to canal communities and also to learn from the great speakers. Amanda Smith and I did a panel in the afternoon drilling in a little bit further on the DRI contributions to canal communities. We had a private sector developer because we thought it was important to show that, without the private sector, this program doesn't work. This developer invested in, I think at this point, 8 DRIs. He does affordable mixed income, artist housing, mixed use projects. And we also had the mayor of North Tonawanda, the gateway to the harbor, speaking from the perspective of an awardee, and Amanda and I. And we followed it up. We took full advantage of the visit out there. The secretary cut the ribbon on 2 major DRI projects in North Tonawanda. So the full 2-day experience was remarkable for me and Amanda and for the Secretary of State. So thank you again for including us.
Paul, that was great. And I'm sure the secretary, if he were able to, we had thought ahead to provide him with access. I didn't know that the secretary was going to be on, but we'll hear from him one way or the other. More than 24 communities under the umbrella of the DRI, 24 canal communities under the umbrella of the DRI and the New York Forward program. And the next round is coming shortly. I'm receiving requests for letters of support for those communities that want to join the DRI roster. And that's one of the most enjoyable things that I get to do, is to write a letter of support to the extent that it will help those regional councils making those decisions. So a very effective program, and you're absolutely right. It was wonderful to get out to the communities, whether it was North Tonawanda, which I heard tremendous things about, but that tour went on to Lockport. And again, we saw the wonderful addition of the new Big Ditch tasting room. And Paul, I know you're no stranger to beer, so that was a wonderful addition. And they are traveling all along the canal with the Seneca Chief offering their signature beer, the Long Haul, which is the official beer of the journey of the Seneca Chief. And that's a wonderful thing. I'd also like to take this opportunity to go to Commissioner Stetson. The Erie Canal Museum honored local citizens at its Erie Canal Bicentennial Gala last Friday. I'm sorry I was not able to attend, but Rebecca Hughes was there. Natalie, are you able to give us a little update and tell us of the honorees, including our own trustee?
Sure, I'm happy to. So can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. I can.
Great. So we had the Bicentennial Gala, which we did in collaboration with the Onondaga Historical Association right here in Syracuse. The first bit of the event was here in the museum, where we had our cocktail hour. And then we moved everybody into downtown, into Clinton Square, into a beautiful giant tent. When we first started planning this event earlier this year, we were trying to think about who might be great partners and honorees. And Trustee Gonzalez, when her name came up, we knew that she was the perfect fit. And when I approached her at the Winter Symposium for the Canal Society, she said, yes, I'm happy to help. And she was a great partner in this event. So she was the honorary chair of the event, helped us promote it, was a great partner, helped Rebecca toast at the dinner. And then we also had a panel discussion at the end that included Marilyn Higgins, a longtime friend and supporter of the canal and the Canal Corporation, or the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor, as well as staff from the Erie Canal Museum and the Onondaga Historical Association. We had about 250 people attend this event. And I think it was just a great success. It was wonderful to see so many people in the museum and engaging in it in this wonderful and new way. If you've been to the museum, you know that we have a full-size replica canal boat in the way chamber. And it was a boat bar for the event. We put a bar right in the middle of the boat. It was very popular. People had a great time. I think overall it was a great success. People really, I think I've heard from a number of people how much they enjoyed learning and thinking a little bit more about this bicentennial in the last 200 years. It is coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, also the bicentennial of the founding of the village of Syracuse. So those two things go right hand in hand, the completion of the canal and the village of Syracuse. And so it was just a wonderful night honoring these two bicentennials with an amazing group of people, including Bea and Rebecca and others. So thank you all who were able to make it out, and thank you, Bea, for all of your support and help, and for some Canal Corporation representatives. It was nice to have you all there. I think I've got an auction item for Ambrose that at some point I've got to get to him.
We lost you there. Auction item. Okay. Oh, that's right. There are some very unique auction items, human auction items, that will offer opportunities for people to have experiences with members of our operations team. So Natalie, very creative on your part. Congratulations to all of the honorees. And I would echo Rebecca's comments that were made Friday of how proud we are of Trustee Gonzalez and her tremendous work on behalf of the canal. She is a force of nature and certainly worthy of every honor that came her way. I know she didn't want to talk, but I think Rebecca convinced her to get up to the microphone and say a few words. So Bea, thank you so much. Kudos to you. And we look forward to more good things to come. Rebecca, would you like to add anything to what I've said about that evening since you were there?
Just congratulations, Natalie, on a very successful event. It was really lovely to be there. And, as Bea said, to meet so many people who are passionate about, keeping history alive and keeping specifically the Erie Canal Museum and the Onondaga Historical Society vital in the work that you do. So thank you for the opportunity to be there.
And we are always happy and intrigued to hear about adaptive reuse along the canal and turning your beautiful Erie Canal boat inside the Waylock into a bar is another achievement in that long history, long proud history. So thank you. We hope it was a great success for the Erie Canal Museum. Are there other items of general discussion or other business to come before the commission? Other comments of what we've talked about? I would just like to remind people we do have two events coming up Sunday on October 26th, which is 200 years to the day when the Erie Canal was opened. We will welcome the Seneca Chief to New York Harbor at 11 a.m. at Pier 26. I'm hopeful. I have sent out invitations to all of you, but I will be more than happy to send you the Eventbrite link so you can register to be part of us. That's 11 a.m. in Manhattan, Pier 26, part of New York Harbor and Hudson River Park Trust. And then the following evening at the Roosevelt House, which is part of Hunter College and the historic residence of FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt, we will host a panel discussion with three canal experts, including Brad Utter, Jennifer Burns and Mitchell Moss on the impact of the Erie Canal on New York City. So if you want to learn about how the Erie Canal's opening transformed New York City, this is a marvelous way to engage in that discussion. It will be moderated by Harold Holzer, who is an award-winning historian and the author of more than 55 books on Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War, and the leader of the Roosevelt House Public Policy Institute. Email me your desire to get more information on that, and I will be happy to send you the registration links. Please consider joining us this weekend. New York's not easy, but these are the two final public commemoration ceremonies for the Erie Canal Bicentennial. Okay, now we turn to public comment. Any members of the public who may wish to address the CRC? Kim, I don't know if we have members of the public on board, but I don't see anything in the chat either. We will go, if there's no more opportunity for public comment, we will go to the announcement of our next meeting, which will be the final meeting of 2025. Kim, when is that scheduled for?
I'm sorry, Brian, I just got out of the presentation mode.
Right.
Did you ask for the next date?
I asked for public comment, didn't hear any. As there's anyone from the public that is on, or how we import that into our discussion. I don't hear any. I'm also asking for the next meeting, which is the final meeting of 2025. So we have a meeting on the calendar for December. Is that correct?
Correct. I'm going to send out a hold later this week. I believe it's December 11th and possibly in Rome.
December 11th, possibly in Rome. That is a Thursday, and I hear Rome is magical that time of year. So please circle your calendars and plan to be with us. We have a new Canal Corporation facility in Rome that you'll be able to see. And of course, Rome, we're going to go back to where it all began in 1817 with the first shovel to build the Erie Canal in Rome. All right. Are there any more comments, questions, or input from commissioners or agency representatives or development personnel? If not, I will accept the motion to adjourn the meeting. Move.
So moved.
Moved by Cal Wysokowski, seconded by Mayor Fra Patorti. It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on whether we want to adjourn or not? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, so we're adjourned until December 11th, and we wish you a very happy Halloween and a happy Thanksgiving until that time, and we'll be in the throes of the winter season. So get those skis tuned up and get ready for December.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.